Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. The title of this video, Chinese House of Horrors, discovered in California. I am doing that a little bit tongue in cheek because there is so much hoopla being made about this news story. So there is some breaking news coming out of Fresno County, California. That is basically in the central part of the state. And what I'm going to do on this video is to break down what the news reports have shown and then to ask some questions, because as you can imagine, I don't take things at face value. I was a little running late to do this video because this is the second time this has happened to me when I prepared all of my research in a Word document. All of my links, all of my photos, all of my notes. I had that ready for you yesterday. I actually am going to share with you a little clip of the video that I did at the end of my presentation yesterday about RFK and Pierce Morgan and Ice Cube, where they were putting forth a narrative that they hope you didn't really catch on to. They wanted you to listen to some of their words, but not some of the other words. So this is the second time that I've gone to my Word document and it completely is gone. It disappeared. This happened to me a few months ago when I was preparing my research on Elon Musk. And I had links, I had embedded photos, I had my notes, and it was all there. Actually, when I was typing something for the Elon Musk, the whole document went poof. And I recreated it and it went poof a second time. I remember telling you all about that. So this has happened with this Chinese biolab discovery in California. So I had to sort of cobble together what I did previously when I did my internet research to look for these photos that I was going to expose. They've already been scrubbed. So I did find a YouTuber. He's got one photo on his phone, and I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. And then I'm also going to share with you a message from the sponsor. Let's get that out of the way. We're going to hop right on over to noblegoldinvestments.com. While I'm sharing this, friends, let me know if you heard of this story, what you think of the story about the Chinese House of Horrors, because that's how it's being presented in the news. And I'm going to let you know what I think the hidden agenda is on that. Okay, here we go. We are over at noblegoldinvestment.com. And the message is that the US dollar has lost 85% of its value since the 1970s. That's when gold went off. That's when the dollar went off the gold standard. And the government seems bent on continuing the tradition of the dollar losing its value. Now, until the next elections, apparently the government will print as much money as it wants to. And the last time they did that, inflation went up 9%. You're probably feeling it like I am. And this means one thing: the security of your future and your family's future is all in your hands. So make sure that you freeze the value of your wealth so it does not melt. And one way to do this is to invest with Noble Gold Investments. Gold is one asset that is proven to withstand recession, inflation, and just about all economic threats. So Noble Gold Investments is here to help you if you want to invest in gold. You will also get a 24-karat, 1/4 ounce gold standard coin for free if you qualify. So find out all about it by going to noblegoldinvestments.com. I have a link for you in the description box below. You can also call them 877-646-5347. This is the only gold company I trust. Of course, there's always a risk of investment. There's no guarantee of any kind, but get all your questions answered by my friends over at noblegoldinvestments.com. Friends, let me play you a very short clip from yesterday's video where I was getting a little humorous, I guess, at the end of my presentation. And let's go right over here. And I think, oops, that is our current video. So I'm going to share my screen. I will unplug just for a moment. It's just less than a minute here, I think. And let me know what you think about my interpretation so far of what's going on here.
Of the hoopla of this Chinese, what do they call it? Lab of horrors, the mysterious, horrific Chinese lab in California. Maybe another boogeyman will be released and we all will live in fear again. That's exactly the narrative that they're pushing. And I hope that my smart, savvy, sophisticated, healthy Americans aren't going to fall for it. I'm going to expose it all, friends. Oh yeah, this goes deep down the rabbit hole.
All right, let me get my audio back up. All right. Welcome to my virtual living room, friends here. Let me say that I'm not poking fun if this indeed is what they say it is. And by they, it's the media. So there were a lot of questions that I had about this presence of this Chinese biolab in Fresno, California. Before we dive in, and as I mentioned, all of my notes went poof, but I recreated best I can what I have for you. Here are some of the trademarks of a psychological operation. Number one, the news media will prey on, and I don't mean prey, I mean attack. They will try to take advantage of people by creating an emotional scene, by making you scared, by making you feel in fear that the Chinese are suddenly setting up shop in every abandoned warehouse in all parts of the city. And you have to always be looking over your shoulder because those Chinese might be setting up their house of horrors. So this kind of reporting, by instilling fear, I call it mongering fear, right? That's what they're doing, the fear mongers. And of course, they also are flu mongerers, because as you'll see, the narrative is that there's going to be some kind of new particle, some kind of new cooties that might be released. It might already be released. It already might be in the soil and in the water. And I do not care for this kind of reporting. So that's one of the hallmarks of, let me dig a little deeper. Why is there fear mongering around this? All right. A number two hallmark for me, when the stories just don't add up, is there is a lot of confusion. There is not a lot of hard facts, evidence, and data. There will be comments made and articles written without any links to any documents, to any references. There will be statements such as somebody said. Well, who's this somebody and why should I believe them? And when did they say it? And how do you know they said it? And who was the witness? So there are a lot of telltale signs like this when I don't believe at first blush, at first take, what it is that's going on. So again, number one, it's based on fear and emotions. Number two, there are a lot of facts or lack of facts, information that's just glossed over. Number three, there's a lot of confusing information. They told us it was in Fresno. Well, actually, it's in the town of Reedley. Well, Reedley is in the county of Fresno, but it used to be in Fresno and then they moved. So there's all these moving parts, which may be truthful and accurate, but the way that it's presented is not very easy to follow. Number three or four, you start to look at, when you start to look at things with a rational mind, without being gripped by fear or your emotions or the spin or the anxiety or the dread or the cortisol or the adrenaline, you can look at things and go, that is so weird. That doesn't even add up. So let's take a look now, shall we, at the research that I found, at the information that I found. And the first piece of information that I got, and then we're going to dig a little deeper and I'm going to show you how I look at things and try to validate whether or not what we were told is true. So the very first place that I'm going to go is a local paper. It's the most first source that I can find here. And this is called Mid-Valley Times. So let's do this. I'm going to hop right on over. This is the local paper in Fresno County, and it says investigation on Reedley building uncovers bio and health hazards. Now, there were a couple of other photos. This is what's so troubling to me. I cannot find the link of the photos where you could tap and, scroll through the photos, because most of them just look like this, an abandoned warehouse. So it's a little bit difficult to read this. So I'm going to come off the screen, but I just wanted to show you where I was going. It's the Mid-Valley Times. This is a recent article, July 25th, 2023. Before we go any further, apparently this story first broke back in March of 2023. I could not find any original articles. If you want to be my Healthy American, on my Healthy American research team, and see if you can find any articles back in March of 2023, then please send me the links to that, because when we start to read in the story, we'll see that that's when the county officials and the city officials were alerted to this. And it's a very strange way that they were. So let me read you a little bit of this news story. It says, when Reedley, That's the town. When Reedley Code, let me do this for you also. Let's just, so we all know where it is. Let's pull this up on the map. I always like to get a visual of where we are. So this is Reedley, California, and I'll share my screen in just a moment, and we'll take a look here. All right. So California is a huge state, has the largest population in the United States, 40+ million people, and who knows how many that have been coming over the border, maybe another 3 or 4 million, who knows. Here's Reedley, all right? Here's Fresno. It's in the county of Fresno. And the information that I was finding came from the county supervisors. You know how much I trust the county supervisors in California. So let's zoom out just a little bit and we'll see where Fresno is. It's right smack dab in the center of California. So here's Fresno. Whoops, here's San Diego, here's San Francisco, and then you've got the border. So this is a lot of, we have agricultural land and so forth. And that is where that is. Okay, so let me read to you some of the story. Reedley code enforcement officers investigated a warehouse at 850 I Street on March 3rd. Are you ready, friends? I know this is not a parody. This is not a joke, but it made me laugh over an illegally attached garden hose. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because isn't that what code enforcement officers do? They drive around the cities and they look for an illegally attached garden hose. First of all, my question is, what is an illegally attached garden hose? Because I don't want to get a ticket. I like to garden and I have a couple of garden hoses. Is mine attached illegally? What exactly is a legally attached garden hose? You see, friends, the act of critical thinking is to, number one, define the terms that they're using. So these code enforcement officers came up with the word illegally, came up with the phrase illegally attached garden hose. I want to know the penal code for attaching your garden hose illegally. Right off the bat, that made me scratch my head and go, okay, I don't really have a lot of faith in this story. It might be a planted story to create fear so that people are going to live in fear that not only are there cooties coming out of China, but now there are cooties coming out. And isn't it interesting also, I showed you the map, in the smack dab center of the state. How convenient to have a Chinese House of Horrors biolab in the very center of the state, because it could go up, it could go down, it could go side, it could go side, it could go into the ocean, it could go in the mountains, it could go in the desert, it could go in the sea. Yeah, it makes me skeptical about this. Number one, they should have come up with a better cover story. You're telling me that county code enforcement officers are driving around to abandoned buildings. And if I had more time to do more research, I would like to see, there's probably some YouTuber that has done, a video of Reedley, California, to let us know how down the tubes California is going. I'd like to see exactly how many abandoned warehouses there are and why in the non-spinning world are, friends, let me stop myself for a moment. Many of you have said, there you go, Peggy, talking about the flat earth. When have I ever said the flat earth? I'm talking about the non-spinning world. I don't have any evidence that we're spinning, all right? My physical reality and observation does not mesh with it. If anybody wants to give me irrefutable evidence, not theories and all of that, I'd be welcome to see it. But I say non-spinning world because I like to, and I think it's funny. Anyway, why in the non-spinning world would these code enforcement officers be driving around looking for illegally attached garden hoses? They should have come up with a better cover story. Let me continue. All right, here we go. It was pretty clear right off the bat, Reedley City Manager Nicole Ziba said, that something was going on we didn't have a business license for. They didn't have any city approvals. That building was supposed to be vacant. This is the news article, the best news article I could find. Ziba said the officers left the property because they did not have a warrant. The suspicious garden hose. You can't make this stuff up, friends. The suspicious garden hose, coupled with numerous building code violations, led officers to declare the site unsafe. What are these other numerous building code violations? Don't you think that would be a part of the story? It seems like that would carry more weight than an illegally attached garden hose. And when we dig into the story, it's like, what would you even need a garden hose for? Okay, I don't believe this story. I'll just tell you, I don't believe it. I don't believe what they're telling us. The city posted, I believe that this happened. The city posted unsafe to occupy signs all around the property and ordered individuals on site to leave. Well, who were these individuals? I would like some names. I would like to know how many of them. What were they, Chinese? Did they have genders, or were they gender fluid? Maybe they were nationality fluid and they didn't have a nationality. Maybe that building was identifying as in the code. The city posted unsafe to occupy signs and ordered individuals on the site to leave. They then called the Fresno County Department of Public Health. This is where it gets interesting, because I went to the Fresno County Department of Public Health. And again, here's where sadly some of my research, let me see if I can find it. I went to the, I'll have to bring that up. Maybe I'll do a follow-up, friends. I went to the Fresno County Department of Public Health, and I looked back. You can do the research as well. I looked back through all of their press releases. Nothing was ever mentioned in March of 2023 about this illegally attached garden hose. If it was a matter of public health and public concern, don't you think that the public would have been alerted? Maybe there was a meth lab. Maybe something was going to explode. Why wasn't there a press conference? I have not found it. If there was, it certainly was swept under the carpet because I never saw it. So I went to the Fresno County Department of Health, and nothing was there in their press release whatsoever. All right, let me continue with this story. It just gets weirder and weirder. Stay tuned until the end, because wait until I show you how the Gavinator is involved, and wait until I show you how much money this so-called biolab got. And if you live in California, it came out of your pocket like it came out of mine, because there's no such thing as government money. It's your money and my money. Oh, and the money that they print out of thin air. I guess there is that. So and wait until you see the number for those of you that like the numerology. Yeah, hang on. I'll share that in just a little bit. Let's continue with this article. That phone call from the code enforcement to the Fresno County Department of Public Health, you know how we love our public health departments, that launched an investigation that would eventually involve, wait for it, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. You know, our friends that only want to keep us safe. Every single thing they do out of that agency is for no, it's actually not for your good. It's for the common good, because you know, the common good, it's very easy to define. And of course, those that define it, of course, they have our best interest at heart. I would never, ever consider that they'd try to pull a fast one and bamboozle us. So the dog cat agency, the FBI, the State Department of Toxic Substances Control, which in California is called DTSC, the State Department of Health, the California, well, it's the same thing. The California Department of Public Health is the State Department of Public Health. You see, this article is so poorly written, it really makes me question whether it was written by AI. And if it is, robots have a long way to go. The FCDPH, we have no idea what that is. They did not describe what that is. And this would lead to the discovery of a lab that had been operating illegally in the city since October of 2022. Okay, here we are. FCDPH is the Fresno County Department of Public Health. Director David Lucchini and the assistant director said the amount of biological materials and chemicals, over 800. Now, some of you watched my video about a year ago about the number 8 and the number 80 and the number 88. And I still think I have like one of their favorite numbers. And, you know, the occupier in the White House, he won. Of course he did. Don't go questioning it. Come on. Just because nobody showed up at his rallies and everybody showed up at Mr. T's. It doesn't mean anything else other than the occupier of the White House won by 80 million votes. And of course, there were 80 million Americans that still needed to become pincushions, and 80% and 88. So they love that number. Here it is again. Here's what's interesting. I've been with the department for 30 years, and I don't recall a similar situation, Lucchini said. His assistant echoed the similar sentiments. 26 years with the county of Fresno, he says, I've never come across this situation. I've never heard of any of my counterparts ever deal with a situation like this. Friends, do you see what they're doing? They're, in my view, blowing it out of proportion. They're increasing that fear factor. Like, this is unprecedented. Remember that word 3 years ago? It was unprecedented, never happened before. Yeah. Okay. Now, 850, there's the number 8 again, 850 I Street is the number where the code enforcement found the illegally attached garden hose. And I'm going to show you the picture because I did a Google search. I mean, a giggle search. Why, Peggy, are you using Google? I'm using Giggle because I want to see what everybody else sees. And that's what most of the world uses. So let's see, shall we? Here it is. Here's the plant or the abandoned warehouse as it shows on my map. And here's what it comes up to. It says Sanchez Recycle, and then it says Prestige Biological Lab. So I did a little more research, and let's just click right on over. Oh, isn't this a quinky dink? The city of Reedley Police Dispatch is right across the street from the biolab. I'm not going to draw any conclusions, but if you want to connect the clots on that one, I'm not saying anybody's in on anything. I would never. Why would I ever consider that? But let's look at this. At the Prestige Biological Lab. This is headquartered in Singapore. Wow. This looks pretty fancy, not at all like the abandoned warehouse with the illegally attached garden hoses. Can you see any garden hoses here, friends? I'm sure they are always used in biolabs. I'm sure there's probably one right over here. Maybe I'll have to enlarge it. I don't see any garden hoses. You know, apparently that's something they use in these biolabs. So now this looks nice and clean. Everybody's got the suffocation device on. They're all wearing the white coats, so we're going to trust them. And this is it. Prestige Biopharma, and I double checked, it is related. Here we go. 850 I Street. So let's go back to the news article, shall we? And it says that according to multiple documents filed in Fresno Superior Court in early fall of 2022. If any of you would like to help me try to find these documents that were these court documents filed in Fresno Superior Court, I could not find them. In early fall of 2022, they determined that Prestige Biotech has a Nevada headquarters as well. And they moved equipment into the warehouse at 850 I Street and established a lab. Court documents state that Prestige was operating a lab in Fresno in 2022, but it was in Fresno, but it was destroyed in a fire, which prompted the move to Reedley. Now, these court documents, I don't know what they are, and I don't know who filed them. I don't know if it was the county of Fresno that filed them. I don't know if this is verifiable. This is not like a court ruling stated these things. This is apparently in some court document, which I cannot locate. Reedley officials and personnel from the California Department of Public Health and the Fresno Department of Public Health executed a warrant on March 16th to inspect the warehouse. Where's all the news articles about that? According to a declaration from the Fresno County Public Health, investigators discovered that one room of the warehouse was used to produce cooties test and pregnancy test. In other rooms, investigators found blood, tissue, and other bodily fluid samples. What does that mean? I'm not a researcher in a biolab, but that sounds really weird. They also found thousands of vials that contained unlabeled fluids. Where's the photos? I don't see any photos of that. If you can find those photos, please email support@thehealthyamerican.org. The only photos I found, let me show you this one. It's very funny. The only photos I found were this fellow. Let me cue it up for you. It's a very small picture. Okay, let me share my screen. He found a picture of the illegally attached garden hose. And I will tell you, I've heard a few videos from this fellow. I don't know him personally, but he is mongering fear. Just saying. Just saying. All right. If you want to watch his video, it's called The Economic Ninja. I'll link it for you below. Maybe you follow this guy also. Here's the illegally attached garden hose. That looks so suspicious to me. I can't even tell you. I cannot even tell you. The discovery was made after a local code enforcement officer noticed the garden hose poking out a back wall of the building. Well, that just takes the cake. It's got to be an open and shut case if there's a garden hose sticking out of an abandoned building. Now, if the water was on and the place was flooded or something, if there was a fire alarm going off, if there were, I don't know, rats running around carrying off body parts, or like the illegal garden hose, they need better script writers, friends. They really do. I will give you my analysis in just a moment. I want to finish a little bit more of this story. So, under the auspices, okay, here we go. The city manager said, when they got the warrant to go into the warehouse on March 16th, she said, that's when we found the mice. Over 900 mice were located at the facility. This is why I hate animal experimentation. Court documents identify Wang Zhaolin as the Prestige Biopharma representative on site during the investigation. Now they finally have identified somebody. Zhaolin informed the investigators that these mice were genetically engineered to catch and carry the cooties. Court documents describe the conditions under which the mice were housed as inhumane. All right, so here's my question. If this guy was on site, he should be charged with cruelty to animals. I need to double check. I think it's a felony in the state of California. It should be a felony in the state of California. Why isn't he behind bars? Why don't I hear about it? Was he arrested? Was he taken in for questioning? Nothing is in the article about that at all. Reedley officials conducted a follow-up investigation. It says that the mice were housed in conditions that were described as inhumane. That is against the law. When animal control officers raid houses and there are mentally ill people that have, their houses overrun with cats or dogs or something like that, those people are generally arrested. They are arrested because of cruelty to animals. So are the lab mice not under the same auspices? I would have to double check that. But what happened to this Wang Zhaolin? Is he detained? Is he questioned? There's nothing in here about this whatsoever. But we're supposed to be afraid of the garden hose. There's got to be something. Now, when I start to connect the clots, okay, the garden hose is like a snake, like a serpent. Am I reading too much into this? Possibly, but that's what I like to do. That's the hallmark of somebody who wants to dig deeper. That's a sign that you can do critical thinking. You don't just accept things at face value. I could be totally off the mark. There are three possibilities as I see it. Number one, the story is exactly 100% accurate with their poor reporting. I should just move on and accept the fact that there's, genetically modified mice carrying this cooties, which, has never been identified or anything. And they're going to be now released into the streets of Fresno, and they're probably in your house. So that's the underlying narrative that they're pushing, that we have to be afraid of this. So this could totally be the story, that there was this lab that was operating, but wait until I give you the punchline. Why was it operating illegally? I don't see where did that fit into the picture? Did they not pay their rent? How did that happen? So it could be exactly as they're telling us. Or number two, none of it could be. This could be a fake empty warehouse. The pictures could be fake. Now that's really on the opposite end of the spectrum. And I'm not saying that's the case. The third is probably somewhere in between. There may be some nefarious things going on there, but you know that the government is going to use it to their advantage to monger fear, to have you live in fear, to be always looking over your shoulder, to be hyped up and hopped up and addicted to the drama and addicted to adrenaline. And these videos of the YouTubers calling it the House of Horrors, and I'm doing that facetiously because I think it's way overblown, that doesn't do anybody any good. So it says court, okay, the decision was made to euthanize 773 mice. Investigators discovered 178 dead mice on the property. That's very tragic to me. Court documents confirm that Prestige never contracted with a licensed medical waste hauler to dispose of medical waste, including the mice. I guess they're just confirmed as medical waste per state regulations, which means from October 2022 until the lab was shuttered, Prestige was illegally disposing of medical waste generated by the lab. That may be true. That's horrible if it's true, but it could be true. From May 2nd to 4th, the CDC's Division of Select Agents and Toxins inspected the facility. I'll leave a link for you if you want to read this article yourself. It says that there were potentially infectious agents at the location, bacterial and viral agents, and then they list a few of them. And the CDC found samples of malaria. All right. Malaria has been in the news quite a bit, and here it is in the news again. This could be exactly as they're telling us, or it could be overblown. Here's what I want to do. It says, court documents describe Prestige as a successor to Universal Meditech, a now bankrupt medical equipment manufacturer located in Fresno. When Universal filed for bankruptcy, Prestige was its largest creditor. It's not clear if Prestige assumed Universal's liabilities and took over its operation. Here is what I want to show you. I did a little research and I found out about this Universal. Hang on, here's where it's all going to come together. So I did a little research. Okay, before we go any further, if you search online for Chinese biolab in California, all sorts of images are going to show up that are not images of the actual lab. What you have to do is you have to look at the credit for the image, and it will say something like Shutterstock, which means it is a stock image, right? A stock image is something, a picture that somebody took, and they're using it for their own illustration. So let me show this to you, and then we'll look over at Meditech. So if you did a search, like this little lab mouse, that is not from the lab that we saw. I don't even know if this is. This is not, because when you click on it, as I have, and it will say, in fact, we'll just go over there. Hopefully, let me stop share for a second, make sure there's nothing weird when I click over there. It says, hang on one second. Okay. So this is how I do my deep digging, friends. I just dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And when I found that image, I'll have to find it for you again. It said Shutterstock, stock image from, Getty Images. So those aren't necessarily what you're going to see. You have to dig deeper on that. Let me take you on over to the company, Universal Meditech, and we'll finish off the video with the grand slam where the Gavinator enters the scene. Universal Meditech. Okay, it incorporated in 2015, a stock corporation in California, general corporation. Here is their address, registered address, Fresno, Zhao Yang Wang, and there's the agent's name. That doesn't necessarily mean that he owns the company or works for the company. That just means he is the official person that will receive documents if there's any kind of lawsuit or anything like that. So we've established that this is a company. In 2015, here's the person's name. Now, in the state of California, let's take a look, shall we? Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development from the governor. California competes. That's the name of your and my tax dollars going to these companies. The California Competes Tax Credit Allocation Agreement is by and between Universal Meditech, a California corporation. I just showed that to you. Just showed it to you. There we go. Let's get that highlighted if it will. All right, here we go. It won't highlight. Anyway, this is it. Okay. Look at how much money they got. Total credit award, GoBiz, upon approval by the committee and conditioned upon the requirements set forth, will award the taxpayer, which is that company, Meditech, a California Competes tax credit in the amount of $360,000. $360,000 that this company does not have to pay to the state of California. They just got a tax credit. Let's keep going. There's all of the terms of the contract or the agreement or the grant. And here it is, signed by the deputy director. What a coinky-dink. March of 2019. Isn't that a little too close for comfort when it comes to the cooties? And there's Zhao Yang Wang. Universal Meditech, March 20th. Gee, exactly 1 year, basically to the day of the cooties hogwash being sloshed all over us in California, to the tune of $360,000. You saw it, 3-6. That means 666. Now, you know that that is the mark of the beast. I'm not saying that that number was put there because it's the mark of the beast. I thought it was very interesting, so I'm pointing it out. What say you, friends? What say you? I personally believe that this story is completely overblown, even if the facts are as they state. The fear mongering that the media has been instilling and sloshing is horrendous. I find it very interesting that my notes were disappeared off my computer. I will continue to recreate what I found because there were other very curious images and some other interesting stories. There's one last one I will leave a link for you as well. And this came from the California Globe. Yeah, California Globe. That's an online paper. And that was published yesterday. Mysterious Chinese cooties lab uncovered in the city of California. Code enforcement check uncovers illegal lab making cooties and pregnancy test kits with bacterial and viral agents and 900 white mice. Again, it says the lab was supposed to be an empty building, but the Reedley Code enforcement officer saw a garden hose attached to the building, so they investigated. At this stage of the game, friends, I really don't believe much of what is presented in the mainstream merry-go-round media. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. I would love for you to do a little more deeper digging if you're interested. One of the articles that disappeared was pushing the narrative of these toxins being released in the surrounding area and that people should be, careful of that. The infectious agents could have been released without people knowing. I've said it before, friends, and I've said it again. Worrying about the wire in the bra is worse than the wire in the bra. That advice comes from a professor who was asked, not by me, but by another student, should I be worrying about radiation because I have wire in my bra? And the very wise professor said, worrying about the wire in the bra is worse than the wire in the bra. Worrying about these things, letting your imagination run away with you, in my view, is more harmful than what actually could be going on. I will be keeping my eye on the story. I brought this to you as a public service announcement and as an exercise in critical thinking, how I ask questions, how I dig deeper, how I like to go back and reread the articles after the initial shock or, nervousness that might have been rising. After that abates a little bit, you can go back, be more sober-minded, a little more clear in your thinking, and a little more critical in your thinking as well. For some reason, YouTube is not showing me the live chat, so I'm unable to see that right now, but I will take a look on the review. And I just want to make one more comment as I finish up the video. Yesterday, I did my story about In Their Own Words with RFK Jr., as I call him, and Pierce Morgan and Ice Cube. And I set the stage for Junior's remarks from 2015. And some of you said, Peggy, you said it was the $1 Million Man March, and that $1 Million March was previous to that. Well, they do a lot of, it was called, it had a similar name to it. Oh, friends, I found it. I found it. I found the garden hose. I recant my earlier comments. I found the biological house of horror. Wouldn't it be weird? I'm not going to say this. That is what happened, but wouldn't it be weird? Like, did the Holy Spirit just send me my document again? I looked everywhere. Maybe I need a vacation. Let me know in a comment below. All right, let me show you the pictures. We'll finish off with this. But that Million Man March did have a slightly different name. It was like $1 Million March or something. I will find that for you when I do my continued coverage on Junior. And many of you asked me to give you my opinion about Vivek Ramaswamy, and I have some interesting things to show you about him. I have not looked into Dr. Shiva at this point, and many of you already have. So let me finish off here with some images. All right. Share my screen. Here we go. So there's one of the images, and it really looks abandoned. I mean, nothing is growing here. The stuff looks like it's been out there. I don't even know if that is actually the same building. Here's another picture. Here's what I want to show you. Where is the garden hose? I don't see it here. If that's the whole, like the key that clenched this whole investigation that got kicked off, where's the garden hose? I don't see it here. I don't see it here. I don't see it here. Ooh, this looks really scary, doesn't it, through the chain link fence? Well, that looks really suspicious, but I don't see a garden hose. Oh, well, then this looks really scary. I'm so glad they put that picture because that looks really scary. All right, this is the link that I had for the getting the taxpayer money. Let me see if I can find the garden hose image. I just think that's so strange. All right, let me see if there's any other links. Okay. Okay. Here, I got a photo of the garden hose right here. If it's still there. Okay. Here we are. Share the screen. I know I have to sit really close to the computer screen just because of my vision here. All right, so here it is. Exclusive photos of the now shuttered illegal medical lab. She's pointing at the garden hose. Don't you think those investigators would have like taken the garden? That looks so suspicious, doesn't it? A garden hose. Is it just stop right there? Okay, but where is it? Where is this the same building? It's like sort of painted purple. Is it the same building? Do not enter. Unsafe to enter. Showroom. 850I. There's the pictures. Where's the garden hose? That's the chain link fence. I don't see any purple wall. Where's the garden hose? I'm just saying, friends, these things don't add up to me. All right, this was a longer video than I anticipated. Many of you said, Peggy, I wish your videos were longer. That's about my max. I like to keep them normally around 20 minutes. So that is going to be a wrap up for today, friends. I can't wait to have you back with me over the coming days as I get my research together. We are going to be looking at the, let me just say, Cocktail Assistance Act of 1962. And that was by JFK, so Junior's uncle, who signed that bill into law, which kickstarted the government payments to the states to enforce and encourage and require children to become human pincushions in order to go to public schools. So it's so weird that that's his legacy, but he's not talking about that. Then I'm also going to bring you a video about the National, I'll just say it, Vaccine Information Council in India. I have to get the exact name. And they've been doing this kind of, I think it's called education, for many, many years. You are going to be stunned when I show you their logo, especially if you are aware of the harms that are perpetrated upon children. It's always raised eyebrows for me. I haven't spoken about it over the many years because I was not talking about the cocktails. I was talking about your rights, and I'm still talking about your rights. And besides, I thought everybody could see that, but apparently not. So I'm going to have to point that out. And then I will also point out that that woman, Barbara Lowe Fisher, who has been sort of the face of, the cocktail movement for many years, her group actually wrote the law for 1986, which was called the Act. That's what it's referred to, which was the act that became a law that created these courts for the medical manufacturers. And that's where it was declared that these products are unavoidably unsafe. So isn't it weird that a, national education center for the cocktails actually was the driving force behind this law? And after that became a law in the next couple of years, the number of cocktails on the childhood schedule went from about, I'm just going to pick a number, let's say 5 to about 55 over the years and counting. We will look exactly at that. I'm just giving you an overview right now. I'll give you the exact numbers. So isn't that strange? It's almost as if they want you to think that they're fighting on your behalf, and then they're really not. More to come. More to come. Thank you for being on board. I have the best audience on YouTube. I love my Healthy Americans. I love your comments. I love your interaction. I love that you think deeply. You're smart, as I've said, you're supportive, and you're sophisticated, and you're a little bit snarky, just as I like it. Big shout out to the moderators. I'll see you tomorrow.